it's up to you. If you don't mind being on camera, the little bitty camera, and want to come up here and click your button yourself, you can. If you want to stand like beside the camera so that they can hear you on the microphone, and I'll click the button for you, I'll be glad to. Whatever way you want to do it, I'm 100% with you. Cool. We got nobody in. Oh, Cody just showed up. So unless Cody wants to, well, let me give. Unless Cody wants to go first, we're gonna let one of the folks in here go first. Oh yeah. Also, before we get started, I found out what this is. It's a persimmon tree, and the fruits are really bitter. So like they weren't poisonous or anything because I told you my tongue kind of tasted. So it's not poisonous, but they're really really bitter until they fully ripen and fall off. Like when they fall off the tree, they're supposed to taste really really good, but obviously the animals are going to beat you to that. But like I've said, there's people that have persimmons planted in their yard that what they'll do is they'll like build a fence around the persimmons and those squirrels and stuff could get to it and put a quilt down for when the things fall and then collect them and make all kinds of interesting persimmon stuff. Native to North Carolina. Native Americans actually made beer out of persimmon. Pretty cool. All right. So Cody's got himself muted, so I'm guessing he's not volunteering to present. So
no, I don't want to go first.
Cody also asked, was there a rubric? I'll be honest with you. I kind of, a lot of things we do, I'm going to have some rubrics for things, and I actually do have a rubric for the leaf collection if anybody ever wants to see it. But at the risk of being like a bad teacher, I'm not a big rubric fan. I understand that makes it tough to know what I expect, but I view it kind of as like the AP essay questions. It's like, did you do what I asked? And if you did what I asked, you'll be fine on this. No stress. Tell me about this guy. Nothing you say is wrong. And yeah. So we got Owen as well. So we'll go ahead and get started and go through as many as we can. If we can get these 5 today, that would be cool. And then maybe we'll get some more if somebody else shows up. So if you have any questions at home, let me know. Folks here in the room, if you want to go, let me know, and I'll do it however you want to. Emma looks like she's ready to stand up. Okay, you want me to bring it up? Do you want to stand up here? What do you want to do? Okay, yeah. So we're going to start with Emma's presentation. And I lost I can't see my top of my freaking thing because there we go. Emma Ewing, Rachel Carson. And the microphone picks you up like right there. Okay. So I'm gonna just hit the buttons. We're sharing the screen, so I'm not really in the way of your stuff here. But if anybody has any questions for Emma, just let her know, and I'm gonna turn it over to her as soon as I hit present here somewhere. There we go. Bam. Oh, there's your mic. Okay. Give me a test sentence. I'm Emma Ewing, and I'm here to say.
Okay. I'm Emma Ewing, and I'm here to talk about Rachel Carson.
Cody, Owen, that sound good?
Yeah, can hear fine.
Rock and roll. Carry on, sunshine.
Okay, so I'm here to talk about Rachel Carson's contributions to environmental science. So who was Rachel Carson, just to start off with? She was a biologist who started off with kind of like marine biology, and then later on in her life, she wrote Silent Spring, which we'll talk about in a little bit, which was her biggest contribution to environmental science. And it's credited as being the most influential, one of the most influential pieces in the modern environmental science movement. So Silent Spring was published in 1962. It's Carson's 4th book. She previously written books on marine biology, and it is about all the dangers of pollution and pesticides, and she talks about all the consequences of those, specifically biomagnification. And the book is very pessimistic because of how realistic it is, and so it increased environmental consciousness and got people thinking.
I was looking for my Rachel Carson book. I don't have a copy of Silent Spring, but I have a copy of The Edge of the Sea.
And she this is kind of just a follow-up on Silent Spring. After she published it, she testified in front of a court about DDT, which is an insecticide that kills mosquitoes. At the time, malaria was really popular, and so using this kind of reduced the cases, but is also very harmful to birds who eat mosquitoes. And then it kind of, like biomagnification, it goes through the cycle. And so she, in her testimony, contributed to the addiction of that. Okay.
Cool. Any questions about Rachel Carson? Obviously, Silent Spring's a big one, but the whole, 60s environmental movement, a lot of folks see her as kind of the grandmother of that movement. But marine biology first. Interesting little thing there. All right. I got a randomizer button if nobody volunteers, and if anybody wants to volunteer, I'm welcome for it. Thank you, Emma, for going first. Oh, we got more people in the chat. Kylie, good to see you, Kylie. Crap, I don't like the fact that I can't. Ugh. Any volunteers? All right, we'll hit a randomized button. 1, 2, Owen, Will Baxter. Wait, that's the same person. Owen, Cody, Kylie.
I'll just go ahead and
Oh, never mind. Lauren's coming. Who's yours, Lauren?
I don't know how to pronounce his last name. Henry something.
Henry David Thoreau.
Yep, there you go.
Give us a test speech, Lauren.
I don't, what do you want me to say?
Can you hear Owen? Or anybody?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah, I can hear him.
Thank you, Cody. Cody's always there for me, man. I appreciate you, Cody. All right, Lauren, tell us about Mr. Henry David Thoreau.
Okay, that was my person. So can you click to the next slide, please? This is just a little bit about him to kind of like understand who he was and like the what.
He's a funny looking dude. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know, but it is what it is. There's just a little background on him to kind of like understand where he's coming from and all that jazz. He lived in the 1800s, lived and died in Massachusetts, and he was a famous essayist, I hope I said that right, and a social activist, and his two most famous essays were Walden and Civil Disobedience, but for the purpose of this class and kind of the point, we're focusing on Walden. Next slide. Walden Pond is a pond in Massachusetts where he used to live. It's the setting for his essay, and he lived there for over 2 years and with the hopes of getting more in tune with the environment. While he was there, he read, wrote, walked, observed nature, and farmed, and it talked a lot about how farming helped him grow a more intimate relationship with the land. Next slide.
Is that a picture of Walden Pond?
Yes.
Cool.
And the importance of that, it laid foundation for modern environmentalism, and it was a really big like practice what you preach type thing. He was really big on, not taking so much from the environment and like being more, what are you looking at? I know, because I don't, anyway, it served as an inspiration for other people, and it helps articulate the idea that you need to be both environmentally and socially responsible. So it's just like a, hey, if I can do it kind of thing, then you can do it type thing. And that's it.
Rock and roll. That's pretty much a good way to think about it. I like the fact that we're actually starting with Rachel Carson and Thoreau, because they're really, Carson did a little bit more concrete stuff because she actually was able to get DDT banned pretty much. But they both serve as important tipping points for what comes next in the environmental movement. Thoreau in that, hey, let's wake up and realize that we're not just kings of the world, and Rachel Carson saying, we might be killing mosquitoes, but what else are we killing? All right, we are moving right along. Anybody in the chat want to go? I think Ava's still typing over there.
Oh, that's fine.
Who was that?
Owen.
Owen. Aldo Leah, no. Who is yours, Owen? Leah. No.
Jane Goodall.
Jane Goodall. I didn't open that one yet. There it is. All right. Did you watch the Jane movie yet, Owen, on Disney Plus?
No, I've not seen that.
Oh, you need to see that. It would have helped you out a little bit.
All right.
I'll hit the buttons for you. If I don't go to the next slide, just let me know. And speak up just a little bit. We can hear you, but you're a little quiet.
Okay. So I have Jane Goodall. Next slide.
Sorry.
Yeah. So just if you don't know who Jane Goodall is, she is a world-renowned primatologist, anthropologist, but she's most famous for her work with chimpanzees, and she is considered to be the world's foremost expert on the animal. Next slide. So at 26, she moved to Tanzania, I think I pronounced that right, in Africa, and she lived with these chimpanzees. She had no scientific training, but she made a bunch of discoveries about the animal. She discovered that they have the ability to make and they use tools, which is something that people had no idea that they could do, and that was something that people thought defined what humans are. That's how they're separated from the animals, but she proved that wrong. She also discovered that they kill their own kind, that they can be very brutal animals. I don't know, there's similarity to humans. But because all this stuff, she became very famous. There were tons of little movies and TV shows made about her, specials that aired on TV. She was on talk shows. She was a bunch of magazines. Yeah, she became world famous for her discoveries. Next slide. And since maybe 20 years ago, she's left Africa and now she travels around the world and speaks to different leaders about environmental causes like wildlife conservation and welfare, getting things to protect chimpanzees, because since she got there, their population has dropped a bunch and they're endangered animals now. So she goes around and, like I said, here speaking to big crowds of people, talking with different leaders. She's opened wildlife sanctuaries for chimpanzees. She's helped a bunch of organizations. She raised a ton of money. Next slide. That's it. Yeah, she's had 60 Minutes was my source for that. Yeah, she's had a huge impact on lots of different organizations. She's like the Bill Nye kind of science things. You see her a lot of times on TV talking about these things.
Owen, I got a question for you.
Yes.
I've read some not a lot of scientists, but I've read some scientific backlash to Goodall's work because she names her chimpanzees and has a relationship with them. And
yes.
A lot of scientists say that makes her unable to be impartial when working with the chimpanzees. Do you have a thought about that or anything?
Yeah, she's had a lot of backlash against that, especially she first started this. She was dismissed by a lot of people. She said she doesn't really care. She said that she's going to do it her way, and everybody else can do it their way they want. So she doesn't really care, and obviously it's not affected her as her career. She's become world famous, and she's treated with more respect now, but some people still don't respect her work. I honestly don't really care about that. I mean, if you want to name them or not, that doesn't really matter. She's covered all this stuff, so
and
if you give them names or not.
Even from this picture, a lot of strict zoologists would have trouble with getting the relationship.
I feel like that actually can help you understand a little bit more if you have a kind of connection to them and just the chimpanzees. That maybe help you understand them a little bit. She has her own master class now where she was teaching the sounds of how to talk to them and stuff, and she was talking about how they can laugh or whatever, and she was basically a monkey translator. So I thought it was pretty interesting. So you have to have kind of a little relationship with them, maybe help understand them a little more.
Cool.
So I thought that was pretty interesting.
You are the man, Owen. Any other questions or thoughts about Jane Goodall or Owen? Like I say, guys, young Jane Goodall. It's great. All right. Thank you, Owen.
No problem.
All righty. We got Cody, Ava, and Kylie.
I'll go, I guess.
You're the man, Cody. All right. That is Theodore Roosevelt, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Your microphone sounds great, Cody, so carry on.
Okay. President Theodore Roosevelt. He was the 26th president of the United States and has done a lot for our environmental impacts as a country. Theodore Roosevelt was elected in 1901, and he's most known for his conservation of the forests and parks in all of the United States, but mainly the western United States, such as like Silly Hill in North Dakota. He created the modernization of the United States Forest Service in 1905. He created a lot of national forests and kept a lot of the animals' habitats safe from hunters and deforestation.
Safe from hunters?
Not hunters, from deforestation. And their habitats being destroyed.
Safe for hunters.
Yeah.
Because I think you probably, if you're not going to, you probably need to mention something about why he wanted to do this.
Oh yeah. He had a farm, and he noticed there wasn't as much game for him to hunt, so he wanted to have a way for people to. I'm stuttering right now. Hold up.
Ah, man, you're doing great.
Okay. He wanted a way for him to have. Oh my God, I can't think. Go to the next slide. I'll come back to it. Foreign policies. He won a Nobel Peace Prize for it. Not for creating the Panama Canal, but for other reasons. But he helped separate Panama from Colombia, creating the Panama Canal, which caused a lot of pollution creating it because they used coal to dig it out. But it saved pollution for ships when they would, instead of going all the way across South America, they would just go in between North and South America. It caused a lot less pollution in the environment.
You could definitely, we could probably do a whole unit on the good and the bad of the Panama Canal.
Yeah, there's a lot of drawbacks. Like the initial investment of pollution, I think, has kind of already been overrun in a sense from the amount of stuff he has saved.
Well, we're still we'll carry on. We'll talk about aquatic biodiversity later and the impact of linking of a direct link between the ecosystems of the Atlantic and the Pacific Ocean. But that's for another day.
Okay, and here are my links for the pages.
Gotcha. So important probably for policy, but not exactly. I don't think that he would call himself an environmentalist, right?
No, I don't think he called himself an environmentalist. He wanted to keep habitats available for everyone for the future generations. I have a quote here. Hold up.
Oh yeah.
There's a quote here that I have somewhere.
I have a quote. Do or do not.
It was a long quote, so I didn't really want to put it in here.
I understand, man.
He wanted to keep our resources that we have here in America. He said, we've become great because of the lavish use of our resources, but as time has come to inquire serious what will happen when our forests are gone, when the coal and iron and oil and gas are exhausted, when the soil has still further impoverished and washed into the streams, polluting rivers and denuding the fields and obstructing navigation. So
they're definitely worried about sustainability.
I'm assuming he was trying to, about how if we run out of these things, we need to have a way to sustainably keep them out for generations.
You are the man, Cody.
The one that makes me laugh, so he wasn't really an activist necessarily, he was more kind of just looking after himself.
Well, I mean, Theodore Roosevelt was a very, very interesting fellow. And he, you know, we have to go back. It's interesting that the fact that, you know, conservation and environmentalism is a political football in 2020. It really wasn't until very recently. If you notice, both of the presidents that were on my list that we're going to talk about for environmentalism were well, Theodore Roosevelt has a strange political affiliation, but you could most definitely call him a conservative president. Whether you call he wasn't really a Republican, but he was a conservative president. And now, you know, the thought of a conservative political leader being environmentalist is like, oh gosh, I mean, you get and so that's a really new thing that saving the environment and protecting the environment for the future generations is even political at all. And so we look back at what Theodore Roosevelt was, and Richard Nixon too, who don't want to spoil too much thunder, and say, you know, holy crap, they were environmentalists. And you know, he wasn't really an environmentalist, but what he did was do great things for conservation and sustainability, which are environmental, you know, strongholds. Okay. Thank you, Cody. Great job, bud. All right, we got Kylie and Ava. Ava's still typing, or?
I'm getting there.
Can I go next?
Okay, whose was yours, Kylie? Aldo, right?
Aldo Leopold.
All right. Hopefully, I didn't steal too much of the thunder on him by reading the passage the other day, but looks like you got some good stuff here.
Okay, I hope so. Can y'all hear me good?
Yep.
Okay. So I had Aldo Leopold. One of his famous quotes that I started off with was conservation is a state of harmony between man and land, which kind of leads into what I'm about to talk about. So his background, he was born in Burlington, Iowa in 1887. The place he lived by a big river, and so he liked to watch the migrating geese and ducks. This is where he started to take an interest in wildlife. He knew much about animals, their way of life, and the relationships between different species.
What's he holding in the picture? Like fish, maybe? Yeah, fishing pole. Okay, never mind. Sorry. Carry on. Oh, she muted herself. Kylie, muted.
Sorry, I was clicking the thing, my bad. So he wanted to go to Yale University, but he wanted, so he had to attend a preparatory college in New Jersey first. That was known as the Lawrenceville School. He then attended Sheffield Scientific School at Yale University. And then he went on to Yale School of Forestry as his graduate studies. So that's where he began to really get into the wildlife conservation and understanding about like the forest and wildlife. As his career, he went to Arizona and New Mexico, and he really worked with the Forest Service. So he managed the public lands in National Forest and grasslands. And then he later moved on to Madison, Wisconsin, and he was the assistant director in the U.S. Forest Products Laboratory. He also taught at University of Wisconsin, and which was actually the first of its kind, was the Agricultural Economics Department. So he taught about that. He also assisted in founding the Wilderness Society.
What years are we talking, Kylie? Sorry.
I'm sorry.
That's okay, because I don't know either. I'm looking it up. He died in 48, so he looked like a kind of an old man. So we're talking turn of the century. Right?
Yes.
1900. Okay. Rock and roll.
Yes.
This is just after Roosevelt created the Forest Service. Cool.
And like, what is most important about him? He did many great things in his life by conserving wilderness, but he made a big impact on the environment. He was an author. He aimed at he wanted people to understand wildlife preservation, that you must take care of wildlife in the forest so that it can last. And the Thinking Like a Mountain assignment, he was the writer of that. In his Ascend County Almanac, he wanted to show people the connection between humans and the natural world, and there must be like harmony among us, and we must make sure that they are protected. And this is where he came to realize that like killing the wolves, even though that would be a big win for having more deer, it was actually like messing up the ecosystem because it messed up the food chain and how everything was balanced. And those are my resources.
Rock and roll, Kylie. Thank you so much. Any questions?